Okay, so in this, we're going to look at the augmented scale as a transition scale, transitional. Every possible scale in existence can be used as a transitional scale. And the other problem is well, the thinking that one scale just kind of fits one scenario. That's totally not true. If you think about 145, back in Mozart's time, it sounds completely different than ragtime 145 or well, one of the main themes for Jurassic Park is 145, but doesn't sound like either one of those two examples I just mentioned. This is why we study music, even historically, because you see what makes something tick to where the same content sounds completely different from something else. In short, my recommendation is just don't study film composers. So transitional, let's just do something transitional. I'll use D minor as my transitional area. Here, it's just purely transitional. Moving to more of a stable area, where we're a little bit way more stable now. So the D minor area was just transitional, temporary, and there was a strong relationship to the A major chord. So we used it as a transition from G minor. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, because it's way more stable now, less transitional. So the opening piece that started this is in a diminished scale, and it alternates between that and the harmonic minor scales. But there's one brief instance where it uses the augmented scale starting on the E. And I'm not going to play the whole sequence, just that section. So the augmented scale was just used as a transition between E harmonic minor. And why did I choose E, the E augmented scale? Well, I'll show you here. Here's the end of E harmonic minor. That C shape is also within the E augmented scale. It's almost like a common chord transition. You could literally you could treat that as a common chord between that and the augmented scale built off of E. So that C major shape is common to the E augmented scale. So I take advantage of that. It doesn't sound like a whole lot has changed. It still sounds like that E is our center. It's almost like an illusion, like you haven't really changed keys. I didn't want anything drastic to happen, that's why I did that. But I wanted a little bit of instability on the transition. So if I would have chosen any other root on that augmented scale, like the G sharp, for instance, listen what happens. It kind of sounds like something a little bit more drastic if I do that harmonic minor area. But now the same voicings over the G sharp augmented scale, you could say, it sounds way more drastic. And I didn't want that. I wanted to smoothly transition to the transitional area. That's kind of a funny way. So you do it this way. It doesn't sound like much has changed. Something has, but not a lot. And it makes it, well, a lot harder for the listener to tell what has changed. So it's almost like it was used to go into this transition area, but not sound like something has drastically changed. Now let's do something like this. If you think of this as like modal interchange, since the roots are the same, let's use E Dorian and E harmonic minor. Okay, that's a common thing to do, is to modally interchange between those two. Dorian chords. Second phrase, I'll use harmonic minor chords. So perceptually, either way, we still feel like we're in E something. Now let's take that same concept. We'll use the E harmonic minor for a second, then the E augmented scale, built off of E anyway. And do the same thing, make a statement in E harmonic minor. Let's do that. This is just improvised in. Now make a statement in the E augmented scale. Could you really tell how much had changed? Probably not. It goes by too quick for one. So there's something you can think about right now is you can use not only transitional, the scale for transitional purposes, the augmented scale, but you could also modally interchange these unique scales with normal scales. I do this all the time with the diminished scale. So that's one thing to keep in mind besides the transitional aspect, is that you can actually interchange unique scales with modes or scales, other scales like harmonic minor. Any scale can be mixed with any scale with the same root. That's what I'm trying to say. So also what to get out of this is that not one scale fits everything. The previous episode had very, very comical kind of sounding augmented scale. And you're going to find you could use augmented scale for action kind of music. You could use the augmented scale to sound comical. You could use it just as a quick transition, like in this, where it's mostly just diminished scale and harmonic minor. You can create clustery effects with all the minor seconds. You can create just very, very kind of dark doom and gloom kind of music, literally. Or you can create a little sense of mystery as well. That's why I'm saying don't ever throw one scale into one category. And this is where I recommend for anybody, even if you just want to be a media composer, which I personally do not. It's just easy to see what the tricks they do because I've studied historically from the very beginning of like tonal music and even farther past till present time modern 20th century composers, and almost every possible harmonic scenario you could ever run into has already been done way before the modern film score sound. And truthfully, I think this is one of the biggest mistakes people who want to get into media composing make, is they actually just study media composers, which is, in my honest opinion, a big mistake. You'll get a way larger harmonic vocabulary if you study historic composers. And you'll actually get way better orchestration techniques, to be honest.